Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to the Tax Time show. In this show, we bring you the latest and the greatest information that you need to know regarding taxes, but not only limited to the taxes when it comes to individuals, obviously taxes, but when it comes to business, we actually cover so many topics and so much useful information we get from Mr. Ajay Kumar, CPA and MBA with Sai CPA services. He is with us. Ajay ji, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji.
You're very welcome. जैसा मैंने कहा कि बिजनेस से रिलेटेड काफ़ी सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन आप हमें देते रहते हो. सो शो का नाम है टैक्स टाइम, बट जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है वो टैक्सेस से रिलेटेड होती है, एंड दैट्स व्हाट व्यूअर्स फाइंड इट वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. फॉर एनी बिजनेस टू सर्वाइव और रादर टू सक्सीड, they must have plan in the place.
Yep.
What does plan means is that plan for budgeting and the financing and the forecasting, what needs to be done, what not need to be done, because if there is no plan, if there is no budget, and if there is no forecasting, then obviously business could fall apart. So in this episode, we're going to find out a lot more information, good information to make a note for all of us from Mr. Ajay Kumar about budgeting and the forecasting. How do you forecast your future revenue and how do you plan your budget? How important this is, budgeting and forecasting?
Well, depending on business to business, budgeting and forecasting is very important. In this segment, we try very hard to bring information that small businesses really need to know. So we'll start with what is budgeting and forecasting, what's the difference between the two. Then we'll go about why do you need it, and then in the last segment, we'll take your calls, of course, and we'll talk about how do you go about doing budgeting, doing forecasting.
Okay.
Right?
Good.
So in the first topic, let's talk about what actually is budgeting
and
what is forecasting, right? Yep. So budgeting is all about planning. You have a business, you need to know what expense is going to happen. Do you have enough cash flow? Let's say if your sales are $100, tomorrow you're expecting your sales to be $200. Do you need another machine? Do you need more space? Do you need more people? If you need more resources, you will need to have more money. So they are all intertwined with each other. And then once you have a plan in place, once you have a budget in place, you need to have a comparison. Every so often, depending on business to business, you need to compare every month, every quarter. In some cases, we have this rolling forecast where we are comparing every week to see what the actuals are turning out, what the budget was, and if the actuals are higher or lower, so you can fine tune your budget.
Absolutely, good.
So, and the forecasting angle comes from a future perspective. Yes. Budgeting is more of a short-term view. Budgeting is typically monthly, quarterly, yearly budget. Forecasting is typically more than a year long. You have rolling forecast, and the rolling word stands for you have a 3 months forecast, but even though the forecast is 12 months, you keep looking at the next 12 months. If you are in June, you are looking at from July to the next year June. By the time you reach in September, you are looking at October to September of next year. It's called rolling forecast. So forecast is typically for a longer duration, futuristic plan, strategic plan, as opposed to budgeting that dictates your working capital, what's going to happen today, tomorrow, what resources you need to make your dream come true.
Absolutely.
That's how we look at the budgeting versus forecasting.
Good start. Very, very good in your opening remarks about budgeting and forecasting. Many businesses, businesses definitely need to have budgeting and forecasting.
Sure.
There could be small businesses. It could be, I don't know, from 1 man to 3 men to 5 men operation.
Right.
The president or the CEO or the owner should be preparing this budgeting and forecasting in case if they are not very much knowledgeable in preparing this. What should they do?
Well, it depends on the company size. It depends on the industry. It depends on the revenue. It depends on the transaction. There are several variables to it. In a typically small company, the owner, the CFO, the CEO, and in most cases, that happens to be one person in a small business.
Yes.
You should be preparing the budget. In a larger corporation, in a larger company where you have 30, 40, 50 employees, you typically have an accounting finance department, and that department prepares the budget for you, and then you fine tune it. You see if the budget that the accounting team, the finance team is preparing for you, if it's aligned with your forecast, with your dream. So depending on the company size, depending on the transaction level, sometimes the budget is prepared by the CEO, the owner, the CFO, and sometimes it's prepared by the management.
Okay, but even for the small businesses, it's very essential to have budgeting and forecasting.
It's your dream plan. If you don't really have a budget, if you don't really have a forecasting plan in place, you don't really know where you're going. You're working hard, you're spinning the wheel, but you don't really have a target. You don't have a direction around it. You need to plan for yourself to see where you are heading. How do you get there? And what do you need in order to make it happen?
One may ask a question that it's a small business, why do I need budget and forecasting? It's a small man operation.
That's a great question, absolutely. So let's talk about why the budget is needed, why the forecast is needed. And let's say first, foremost, the corrective action. You think you are going in this direction, and if your actuals are not coming as per your plan, then you have to fine tune your resources. Let's say you hire 10 people knowing you will have 20% growth in your business, and you are seeing the growth is only 15%. You take a step back. Do I really need 10 new hire? Or let's say you bought 5 machines and your growth, your sales are not turning as fast as they were expected. Do you really need 5 machines? Do you have night shift, day shift? If you have the information, the budget, the plan, you can compare your actuals against the budget and make a corrective plan. That's the first, the prime most reason where you need the budget and the forecast.
We're going to stop in for a break, but before that, let me just remind you viewers that in case if you have any question, please feel free to send us an email. texttime@tvasiausa.com. That's the email ID. texttime@tvasiausa.com. We'll be right back after this messages.